Welcome back to another episode of the Brett Snodgrass podcast. And this is Brett Snodgrass, and I'm excited about our guest on today's show. Before we get to them, please go to the Brett Snodgrass channel on YouTube, subscribe, click on that bell, that notification bell to get all the videos each week that we are coming out with. And I'm on cloud 10 today, guys, because I get to interview some amazing friends, married couple, power entrepreneurs, Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkel out of Houston, Texas. And Shawn and Joni have so many things that they're doing. It might actually take me a minute and 30 seconds to actually go through their highlight reel. But basically, Shawn and Joni live in Houston, Texas. They're leaders in the real estate investment space. They've been doing it for 20 plus years. They're parents, writers, realtors, CEOs, owners of 3 franchises, an owner of a nationally recognized investment property provider, and an owner of a virtual assistant supplier company. Joni actually just published a book that is called The Choice Is Yours. It's how to balance success as a wife, mom, and entrepreneur. So we're going to talk about that. And they also find time in their very lax schedule to serve. And they serve in a lot of nonprofit organizations, and they give back and pay it forward. They also have their own podcast, Inside the Wolf's Den, an entrepreneurial journey with Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkel. And I find them traveling a lot with their family, and they spend time with their kids, Mila and Lucas. Welcome to the show, Shawn and Joni. How you guys doing?
Thank you so much for having us, Brett.
Yeah, thank you for that warm introduction.
That's
appreciate it.
We're very excited to be on here today.
I'm really excited to have you guys. So that's just a super mouthful. I mean, you guys have been doing this for 20 plus years, and I know that all didn't all come at once. It's just it's a building block, right? You guys started a company, been doing real estate for 20 plus years, and then started adding things in there. And I really wanted to just dive in because Joni, with all that being said, you're talking about balance, right, in your new book. And I know that that's very, very hard for 99% of entrepreneurs. And
Yes.
and I really want to start off with you, Joni, in this book, because I started actually reading this book, which is amazing, guys. And the first thing that I opened up to was your life story. You came from a broken home. Your father was a heroin addict. Your brother had a drug problem, divorced parents. And my heart just started gravitating towards this book. So I want you to start off just by sharing a little bit if someone's interested in getting this book, but just kind of share a little bit about your life story. How did you grow up? What are some of those challenges that you were going through?
Yeah. So, like you said, I was, grew up in a broken home. My father was a heroin addict, very abusive to my mother. In fact, so abusive that when she was pregnant with me, she had complications when she was pregnant with me. I was born with a cleft palate and hard of hearing. So I spent probably most of my childhood up until I was in first grade, in and out of hospitals and repairing my cleft palate. I probably had about a dozen surgeries from the time I was in first grade. Got held back in first grade just because I missed so much school. And, going through special classes, speech therapy and, counseling, nutritionists, all that. And so it was just a lot for my mother to, have to go through this. And with my father being a heroin addict. So she finally left him, raised my brother and I, worked several jobs to support both of us. And then fast forward a little bit. So my brother really struggled with not having that father figure in his life, kind of fell into his footsteps, was the victim instead of the victor. And he eventually became a meth addict. So that was extremely difficult for my mother and I. We were at home and, she did everything that she could to try to support us and be that, rock star mom, but there was just nothing that she could do for him. And he fell into that path. There was times where, we would get death threats of drive-by shootings because a drug deal went bad, and rolling my computer to the hallway just to get that done. So I just knew that wasn't the life I wanted. And I knew that I was not going to be sucked into this destructive lifestyle that my brother and my father had. And so I just had that mindset early on that, hey, like, it doesn't matter where I came from, I'm going to beat this, And so it was just me telling myself over and over and over and over again that I was going to beat this.
Wow. That's just an amazing, quite the story, number one. And thanks for just showing. And again, I know you share a lot of that in this book. So what was that like for you? Like, did you have to grow up super fast? I mean, you're at this time, like, parents, I think, divorced around 2 years old. So you're probably 10, 11, 12, 13 years old going through a lot of this. Like, did you feel like you had to grow up super fast? Were you taking on responsibilities for your family that you feel like you lost a lot of just being a kid, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what happened, and I just felt from my mom that she was working her butt off to, 2, 3 jobs at once just to support us. And I wanted so badly to help her. So, I mean, I think I was like, 12 or 13 years old. I wanted to, go and find a job out there. But I knew nobody would hire me, and so at 15, my grandfather actually took me to get my worker's permit. He was my biggest supporter through all of this. So I got my first job at Taco Bell. And it's funny because my friends would come and, visit, or they would actually go to the drive-through at Taco Bell, and I would be, servicing them. Like, Joni's working at Taco Bell. But I mean, I just wanted to help my mom support myself and buy, clothes that I needed for school. Because she everything that she did, I mean, she had to, put it on layaway, or it was always hand-me-downs from, friends and family. And so I just really wanted to help support.
Yeah, definitely. So I know that in the real estate business, you can really feel for people going through that. I mean, I know when we talk about people selling their home, a lot of them are in certain situations, and you can obviously have compassion towards those individuals, I'm sure, in the real estate space today. Shawn, let's just hear about you, man. So Joni, obviously, as your wife is talking and through this story, and I'm sure that you've heard a lot of this and you're living through this too, right? I know you guys also met at a very young age, but let's talk about you. So your story might not be as dramatic, but what was Shawn Wolfswinkel like as a kid? I mean, were you...
As a kid. I mean, yeah. So we've been together since we were 15. So I lived a lot of that journey, and there's a lot of stories about, stuff, me helping her brother or taking him to jail. Because he had all these warrants for his arrest, and he's sitting there popping meth, on his way to jail because he knew he was going to be in there for a while, and he has so many warrants for his arrest that he knew he was going to get caught at some point. So I finally took him in so he could just surrender himself. But so it was an interesting time, and he lived with us for a period of our lives as an adults, and that was a horrible experience. But and we got through it. But no, I lived a total opposite, and that's one of the reasons I encouraged her to write the book. Was I just felt like, she has such a great story, and I think more people can relate to her story, and maybe they didn't go through only parts of that, but I think, the struggle and the pain, because I was born, Joni says, with a silver spoon in my mouth. My mom's a doctor, retired doctor. My parents are still married to this day. So I had a good house, upbringing, household, loving household. My parents were workaholics, so they were, and I think that's where my brother and I get that work ethic from. So, and it's good and bad, because I mean, and I've told her this, my mom, like, I don't remember my mom ever tucking me in at night. She was never home. She was never there. So no, she made it to every sporting event, game I had, and was there, and she was usually in scrubs, coming, directly from the hospital. But, and my brother and I spent a lot of time at being raised by nurses, and while she was doing delivery, we had to sit there in the in the little waiting room and all that. And same thing with my dad. My dad was an entrepreneur. He made custom furniture and cabinetry. And so we spent a lot of time, at the shop, after school and after hours. But I had massive insecurities as a child. So I say Joni saved me through it, and I had glasses since right at first grade is when I started wearing glasses, and they got very thick very quickly. So, but kids can be very mean. So I was very, very shy. I'm sure most kids didn't even know I existed, to be honest with you. And I would hide. I started wearing a baseball cap just to cover my eyes so that I didn't have to make eye contact with people. And that's how I existed for probably till high school. And very, very insecure, an introvert, and I lacked a lot of confidence. And when Joni saw an interest in me, I think that's what opened me up a little bit and gave me that confidence, where I could start coming out of my shell. And so I was a late bloomer and really didn't come out of my shell till it was probably my senior year, maybe junior year in high school. I had a very good life, but I dealt with a lot. I think I went into counseling, as a child too. My mom was concerned. I think she was concerned about depression issues and me being as insecure and shy as I was. But it was a rough childhood in a sense that socially I had a hard time with.
Yeah. Do you think anything played a part into the insecurity? Was it just your personality? Obviously, you talked about the glasses, which is funny because I remember, you lived in the era where the thick glasses, that was a terrible, you're always the four-eyed geek that
Always.
People make fun of. Now, glasses are kind of cool sometimes, but
Right.
but that was part of it. But was there anything else that kind of played into your insecurity? Was it maybe because your parents weren't there, like maybe because you weren't athletic or something?
Yeah. I always played in sports. I always hung out with the cool kids, but I was a big time follower. So I was never, I replay that because my parents, I love my parents to death. But they, as Joni knows, they're super critical people. They're critical of and they mean it with the best intentions. Like they mean it because they truly want you to be better and succeed. But I think as me raising my son, who is identical to me, I've now seen that same, and at times, like with sports, I'm super critical of him, and I've learned to like, okay, Shawn, like he doesn't learn this way. He actually probably shuts down with being this critical, and maybe I just need to love him more and just know that I'm there to support him. And so I'm learning with my son probably what I went through as a child that probably I think caused some of those issues.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So Shawn, you said you met Joni when you were 15 years old, and it's funny because you said Joni saved you, and here's Joni coming, and she has this crazy childhood upbringing, and so talk to us about that. And was Joni the first one that showed interest into you? Joni, I'll let you kind of answer this question.
And it's funny that Shawn said, it says that I saved him because I think we saved each other in reality. Like it, I was actually going to a public middle school, and my mom, she was just like me, a driver, and she wanted more for me and was super protective. And she's like, you're not going to a middle school, public school, you're going to go to a private Catholic school. And so, I was devastated. I was going to leave my friends, and it was already hard for me to make friends. And so, yeah, she did. She moved me to a private high school. And that's where I met Shawn. And I'll never forget this day, but we actually had typing class together, and I was sitting in the back of the room and Shawn was in the front, and I already had my eye on him for whatever reason. Maybe it was just meant to be.
I have no clue why, but
and I came to class unprepared, and so I went up to the front of the class and I asked him, hey, can I borrow a few pieces of paper for typing? And he was so nervous. He was like shaking, and he gives me the entire ream of paper, and I didn't think anything of it. So I take the entire ream of paper back to my desk and start typing. And then he comes to me, he's like, excuse me. I was like, yeah. He's like, can I have a few pieces of paper back? He didn't even have enough paper to do it.
You gave it all away.
Yeah.
That's so
But the
funny.
truth is like, I was super lonely in that high school, and I was pretty athletic. I actually tried out for the softball team, and ended up getting on the varsity softball team as a freshman. And I was bullied by these girls. Like, who is this new girl? Coming into the school thinking that she's so bad.
Yeah.
So bullied. I mean, I had girls throwing gum in my hair, and Shawn was the one to kind of have my back, through it all. Like, he was there to encourage me, support me. And then we just became best friends ever since.
Wow.
Yeah, I think we fell in love like real early, but we grew up together, and I think we both helped each other out through our insecurities and she definitely helped me come out of my shell. And then at the same time, she had a great opportunity, I think, with my family. She had opportunities that were never presented to her in her life at that time. I mean, like, she got to go on a lot of trips and travel and things that Europe and things that they had barely traveled at all before me.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think, like, I was able to see what a normal family looked like.
I won't say we're perfect normal.
No, but I mean,
not all families travel to Europe, though.
Compared to like what I went through, I mean, it showed me that what I could have.
Yeah.
So
what was it like for you? So let's just kind of dig into that a little bit deeper. So, and it's crazy how you're getting bullied, and I always feel no one knows what's going on at home, right? And we all have our stories going on, and no one really knows, especially at school. And then you meet Shawn, and you say, he has this normal family, which, his mom is a doctor, and they seem like they're probably well off, being able to travel, things like that. So what was it like for you, Joni, just to kind of stepping into that, seeing, I mean, probably not an average family, but an upper class family, right? And you're not used to any of that. Like, what was the feelings kind of with that?
I mean, super intimidating. I mean, I knew his mom, didn't like me, and didn't really approve of him dating me. And because I think she realized that, the family background that I had, so it was difficult, and I think there was times where, Shawn wanted to go on a date with me, and his mom was like, no, you're not going with her, but we,
there's a good story with that, because we went, my parents always did like a whirlwind weekend, and we went to like amusement parks and shopping and all this stuff. And Joni had her uncle or somebody had gotten tickets, or cousin, to monster trucks or something that weekend. And I really wanted to go with her. And so but it was our whirlwind weekend. And so I said, I would just that one night, can I go with her to the monster trucks or whatever? And my mom was so like mad that she dropped me off at a McDonald's across the street from the arena. And I was only maybe 15.
Yeah,
like 15 in
like the worst part of town.
Worst part of town. And she dropped me off at McDonald's, because it was like, they had plans, and so it was like 2 hours before the event. So I had to wait at McDonald's until Joni could come pick me up. But yeah, she was so mad about that.
But we learned to love each other, and like this to this day. But back then too, so like, whatever Shawn and his brother wanted, they got. And during Christmas time, she's big on lists, like, what do you want for Christmas, that kind of thing. And she's asking me like, what do I want? I'm like, what do you mean, what do I want? Do I get a choice?
Yeah.
So that was really odd for me. It's like, because we didn't get, as children, we didn't get to decide what we wanted for Christmas or have a list. It's like what you got. I mean, you were be thankful for what you have.
Yeah.
So that was.
And Shawn was you probably got everything on your list. Like, here's my 24 things. And
exactly. My big speakers.
No, is exactly. It's funny because when I was growing up, Christmas was huge, and my dad loved Christmas because his parents loved Christmas, and it would just be total chaos, but we'd get so many presents. And Christmas is interesting. That's always been a conversation in my family today, is like, hey, do we get 20 presents for each kid, or do we get 3? Or, it's just been a crazy time, especially when you have the ability to buy them, right? A lot of presents. So, so with that, so you guys met, you guys started seeing each other, dating. Like, was there ever a time where the family, like Shawn's family, mom, like, came around, or, that she started to approve, or is it still rocky? I don't know.
No, it's really good now.
Yeah.
And I think in high school, I mean, she knew that, I wasn't going anywhere. And I think she knew as well that we were there for each other and we were best friends, so, yeah, it was just probably, I don't know, a year or two where she had a rough time, but
Yeah.
I think she meant it. Again, my parents always have the best intentions. Like, it's not like I think she just felt like we were
moving too quickly.
Yeah, for young, and I'd probably be the same with my child if they were, in love with somebody at a very young age. You were a little concerned.
You're like, you don't even know what love is, and you guys are saying it after the first week.
I remember, and hopefully you don't have a PG-13 audience, but so I mean, we were each other's first for a lot of things in high school, and I remember one time, we used to park it because I'm spoiled, so I had a car, I had the truck, and that's one of the reasons.
Had the speakers in the back they got for Christmas.
The 15-inch subwoofers, and
you put on some. I don't know. I don't even know who was popular back then. This probably was in the 90s.
What's that guy? Yeah, no, I won't go there. But anyway,
Boys to Men. It's probably Boys. You put the Boys to Men. There you
go. But yeah, we got and the condom busted, and so like in that time you couldn't get morning after pills over the counter. So my mom's an OB/GYN, so I went to my mom at like 16 years old.
Oh my gosh!
And so. And I broke up with Joni the next day. I'm like, I can't do that.
This is too much.
Going way too fast for me.
Too much drama.
But I mean, so I think she saw that, and I think that's kind of the reasons behind it all. But I mean, we always stuck it through, and they love Joni to death, and they're like a huge part of our kids' lives right now, and really help us out a lot. So it's been good.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So did you guys have, before we kind of I'm going to talk about your entrepreneurial journey, but early on, it sounds like, did you guys have rocky moments where you broke up for a while and then kind of came back together, and then you did your own thing, or was it always just been like, she's the one, I think, and he's the one? And
yeah, I think we had, early on in college, we had some rough patches, but we've always been able to communicate through it. We always, I think there's only one or two times that we ended up breaking up, but we've been able to kind of communicate through that.
I think the time we broke up was in high school, but I mean, when we first moved, because right at 18, we moved in together right after high school. So in college. And so, but when we made that decision, our parents kind of said, hey, you guys are deciding to move in together.
You're on your own.
You're adults now, so figure it out.
So, and that was the big thing for me too, is that, I kind of, supported myself for the most part anyway. I worked early, but my mom basically said, well, if you're moving in with Shawn, then, that's it. You're on your own. So.
Yeah,
definitely. I think just the stress and living together and figuring out those nuances, and then the stress of school and working and being financially on your own. I think that caused the pressure early on in our relationship, but we got through it. But
what a
rough patches.
Yeah, what a challenging time. You guys aren't used to being on your own. Now you're living together. You got to make money, and you just put all those stresses into one big bucket, and that's just a mixture of challenges. So so let's just talk about. So you guys actually started real estate investing early. Pretty much, or your real estate career early when you were in college. I know, Shawn, you got an entrepreneurial studies degree, graduated cum laude. Actually, I don't even know, and I felt really, really dumb, and I've heard that word so many times, but actually, what is cum laude? Is that a good thing?
So I graduated with over a 3.9
Okay,
GPA.
there you go. Nice.
Right.
I did not graduate cum laude, so that's my bad. But So you guys really started off thinking about entrepreneurship. I mean, Shawn, it sounds like you were interested in being an entrepreneur very, very early on. Did something strike that? I mean, it sounds like your parents made money,
Yeah.
but maybe they weren't entrepreneurs. But like, what was it that really gravitated you towards that?
Yeah, so I mean, technically they were both, they're both entrepreneurs, because my mom owned her own practice, and then
Okay.
my dad owned his own um, construction or cabinet business. But I mean, they were more the, what do you call it? Like in the Rich Dad Poor Dad, the quadrants, the four quadrants, the so,
There's the big business, the
like
investors, the self-employed or something.
self-employed would be where
Yeah.
they would,
Hmm.
fall into. So um, they traded time for money,
Hmm.
I guess is what it translated to. But I mean, they had successful careers and did very well. But so I guess I had that bug in me just because that's what I saw. My parents, they're their own business. They control their own time, kind of.
Hmm.
And um, and so I saw that, and so I knew, I think I wanted that, or wanted to be in business for myself. So they did have a little bit of money set aside for me to go to college, and I went on a scholarship. So I took all that money and I went and spent it on boot camps and seminars. I saw a late night infomercial
Nice.
when we were 19, and I bought a bunch of boot camps and a mentorship program, and so that's how we got started. So um, we traveled to Florida and a couple of the Atlanta, and went to a bunch of seminars in Dallas, and then probably what really helped us at 19 start buying and selling houses was we had a mentorship program. And so the guy flew out from Detroit, is where he was out of, and worked with us for a week. So we met with him. He'd come into our house. We met with him for a week, and he showed us how to market for deals, how to put up bandit signs, how to do postcards, contracts. And then when he left, he actually like kind of held our hand and walked us through our first 7 deals together. So we partnered on them.
Mm.
And that's, he provided the money and we just did all the legwork. And I think that's what really gave us the experience and the confidence to do it on our own at 19.
Yeah.
I remember the very first deal we bought exclusively on our own, like all by ourselves, was with a credit card. I did a cash advance on a credit card, and that's how we paid for our first deal. And
Wow.
then it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what a
I don't
mature
recommend
thing.
that.
Yeah, what a
Yeah.
mature thing at 19 years old. I mean, literally, I'm just trying to think about if I had money for college. I got a full ride basketball scholarship, so I had some money that I didn't have to spend on college, and I
Yeah.
didn't do any of that. I went and spent it on partying or something. I don't know, but
I mean, it might have
on
been
weekends.
naive too, because
Yeah.
we didn't know no better.
We didn't have a normal college,
No.
Yeah.
In college we would, we would actually go to class, and then after class we'd go check on our job sites. And even on the weekends, like if we'd have friends that were like 15 years older than us, and we'd be playing board games, the rich dad, poor dad board games. So we didn't have a normal childhood. All of our friends were partying at that time.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, Joni. So Shawn obviously, I think, was really interested in entrepreneurship, studied it. Like, what were you thinking in your mind, traveling to these seminars, getting a mentor, spending, sounds like hundreds or thousands of dollars on trainings, boot camps? Like, what are you thinking about all this?
Yeah, I
Because
mean, at the beginning, I was like, where are we going, to? And he's like, well, I want to go to this 3-day, boot camp just to see what it's all about. I'm like, I don't know, you're crazy. And then, once I got there, I was like, oh, this is really cool. This is, can be something that we could do together. And so I've always kind of followed his lead, and was behind him every step of the way. So his passions were my passions, and that's how it's always been.
Yeah. Awesome. So Shawn, if I asked you like, hey, how do you get a real job? Like if you had to go in for an interview, like, would you know what to do? Because it sounds like you've always done your
Only from what me interviewing like our employees, but not the other way around. So to this day, I've never had I did an internship because I did go to school. I did 4 years of mechanical engineering, and then I changed my last year to entrepreneurial studies. But so I did do an internship one year just to test, see if I wanted to be an engineer. Other than that, I always worked for my parents, and so I've never really had
a real job.
That's good.
A real job.
That's good. That's awesome. I don't know either. Like if someone needs help with a resume, I have no idea. If somebody actually sends me a resume, like I don't really know how to read it very well. But so you guys really got in at a young age, real estate, and then today, I mean, and I want you to talk about everything that you're doing right now and how this happened, right? Because I know it doesn't happen overnight. You guys have been at this a long time, and it's just kind of a puzzle. You keep building upon it, and now you guys are realtors, CEOs. Sounds like you own 3 franchises. I know you have a property management company that's really, really, a strong investment. You guys own that, and you also have a virtual assistant supplier company. So let's talk about what you have and what's going on today. I'll start with Shawn. What do you own? Like what?
Yeah.
Tell us about all your businesses and how it happened.
So to answer your question, like it took a lot longer than I thought it would. To be honest, you always so it starts with a vision, and I would hope your listeners would get that, because there's one thing that I'm very good at, and it's envisioning, and you can call it daydreaming, but I was a very strong. I could see my future, and it felt so real that I knew I could accomplish it. It's just a matter of time. Mm-hmm. And but that time always is a lot longer than I think it's going to happen in a couple of years, and it takes 10 years. But we started as real estate investors. So we bought our first house at 19. We bought and flipped homes and much like the TV shows. So we would buy houses. We were heavily into pre-foreclosure investing. So we've knocked on thousands of doors together as a couple. And then we buy homes, help people out that were in pre-foreclosure, and then rehab those homes. And then Joni was a broker, and we list them and sell them. So to retail homeowners. And in 2010, obviously the real estate market had just seen a major recession and a correction, and our rehabs are taking longer to sell. We never took a lot of risks, so we always were very calculated risk. So we had a lot of friends that went bankrupt during that time, but we just kept pushing through. But we saw a need, so we had our own rental portfolio at that time, and we were approached by a lot of investors that say, "I want to buy houses, fix them. I want to own rental properties, but I don't want the hassle of having to find them. I definitely want to manage them, and I don't want to manage the rehabs on them. And so is that something you guys can help us do?" And so that's when we pivoted in 2010 into the turnkey space, which all the properties we started buying, we started rehabbing them, putting a tenant in place, and then selling it as a turnkey investment for these clients. And then we professionally manage it for the investors. So, and rather than reinventing the wheel, we went and bought a property management franchise as our way of managing the properties and not having to create a whole new business from scratch again. So we started off with our Houston-based property management company, and then our turnkey company we're selling. And in 2015, we had the opportunity to buy a management company, the same franchise in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where we were born and raised in. And we knew the market because we had started there. So we bought back into that market, and we wanted another market to offer turnkey investments to our clients, and a way they can diversify. If they like working with us, now they can have 2 different markets, so they don't put all their eggs in one basket. And we've grown those businesses, to where today we're at 1,500 doors under management. We buy and sell like 100 houses a year. The majority of that today is new construction. So we do build to rent, just because the market constraints on remodels. Being able to source property at the right price point, it's just been better for our clients and easier for us just to build it from scratch. And last year during the recession, the franchisor of our property management companies also own 26 different home service-based franchise models, like Molly Mates, Mr. Rooter, Mr. Electric, all those. And so they had zero presence for Mr. Rooter in Albuquerque. And so they asked us, "Hey, would you be interested in opening a plumbing company? You guys have been very successful in the property management space." And so, we had it wasn't even on our radar to open a plumbing company, but we opened that. We were supposed to open March 1st of 2020, right when everything was going down and with the COVID. And so we pushed the opening date to, I think it was May 25th is when we finally opened that one. And at the same time that year, or right at the beginning of last year, our largest competitor here in Houston for property management sold their company to one of the larger national property management companies. And they owned a VA company at that time, based out of Mexico. And the parent company that bought their entity and their property management company didn't want anything to do with the VA company. And so even though we were very like competitors, and he's going to be on our podcast tomorrow, we were competitors head to head on stuff all the time. After they sold, we've become very good friends with them, and they sold us their VA company last year, and we were already using probably 12 or 13 VAs at the time,
right,
in our companies. And so it was an opportunity that we could now control the entity that is sourcing our VAs, and then we could offer our VA services to other franchises in the franchise model that we are currently a part of. So it all has synergies together, because like the management company feeds the plumbing company, the VA company, obviously feeds all our entities and businesses. We have I think 16 or 17 now VAs that work for us in our entities, but now we can service and help other franchise or companies that need low cost labor. And so it all works hand in hand. And of course the turnkey feeds the management company, and so they all have synergies with each other, and they all work together. But that's how that was the vision, or that's how it got all built. And it's been a fun journey. It hasn't been easy
amazing
by any means, but it's been 21 years now of
that's amazing. I have a couple questions on that,
Sure.
but it sounds like, as you start to get yourself out there and be CEO and owning companies, opportunities start to come to you, and you don't really expect them, but you keep your eyes open, your ears open, and there's things that come across my desk too that I'm like, I had never done anything like that or owned any type of company, but it sounds interesting, and business is business, right? It's just, it's a little bit different, but the nuts and bolts of business is typically the same. You're just doing something different in it. But it sounds like you've also really gotten into franchises, because you've mentioned that. And Johnny, I'll ask you, do you have any thoughts on, is there a reason why you've gravitated more towards the franchise model than starting up something new?
Yeah, I mean, it started when we actually started the turnkey model. We have built the investment company, and when we were going to start building out the property management company, we had no clue what we were doing. We were managing other people's property and using QuickBooks as, and we'd give them their statements.
Excel spreadsheets.
I mean, it was ridiculous. And we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. And so, the franchise model kind of made more sense for us at the time. And it's been good for us. It's helped us to, get our name out there branding wise, and it's,
Yeah.
I think, the market, I get asked that a lot, like, would I do it all over again? And of course it's, if you have the resources and the connections and we're both part of Collective Genius. So if you have those kind of resources, I think at the time you could probably get around not needing a franchise model, because you have the resources that can help support you and, tell you about the softwares and technology they're already using, and you can probably, get around it all. But I think if you're very new to business and don't know what to expect, and you haven't built something else before, then I think, a franchise model can work for you and help you.
Yeah, definitely. I think, business is a lot about systems and processes, and I'm not very good at creating a system or a process, and a franchise kind of helps with all of that, right?
Correct.
They already kind of have that blueprint made, and so I think it's very attractive. So you guys own a lot, and things are really, really good right now. And I'll ask, like, what's your roles in the business? I mean, who's the CEO, or who's
So we're co-CEOs.
We can do a thumb war.
who's the
Whoever
CEO
wins
today?
is what-
Joni's the
yeah.
CEO on Monday, Wednesday, Friday,
Yeah.
and
Right.
Shawn.
And I really, so my role, I mean, like Shawn mentioned, he's definitely more of the visionary. I have always been more of the driver, which has kind of made us a powerful couple that way. You know, and I think today he more runs the construction and the turnkey investment side of things, and I run the property management. That's kind of how our roles, you know, played out.
Okay.
I mean, it's and don't get me wrong, we don't have everything figured out. We're not perfect by any means, and so I think there's times we go home and it's a struggle. It's like, you know, I made a call and she didn't agree with it, and or I took you know, our CEO or operational manager's decision over hers, and I have to live with that and go home, and I just overruled my wife in
Right.
work, and then I have to be a husband to her at home, and that's not always an easy.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's not always easy.
Something that we always have to, you know, continuously work on.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, I know that, Joni, in your book, you talk about balance, and as an entrepreneur, a wife, and a mom. And so I'll start with you on this, but you know, how do you guys do that? I mean, I think that, like I said, I think we were at CG and someone asked who, because you are a business owner, struggles with being a parent or a husband or a wife, and like 80% of the people raise their hand.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is something you're very passionate about. So do you guys have guidelines, or is there a system that you kind of try to do as being co-CEOs and husband and wife?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
I just saying, just as being co-CEOs and husband and wife and parents, and how do you guys do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely challenging. And for like the women out there that, you know, women, and we are so hard on ourselves, and, you know, everything just has to be so perfect, and it's not going to be perfect. And I had to realize that. And, you know, and really when it comes down to is I just strive to be better than I was yesterday. So a better wife, a better mother, a better leader, you know, than I was yesterday. Every day I strive to be better. And with the balance thing, you know, when I'm at work, it's 100% work. I'm dedicated 100% to my team. When I'm at home, I'm dedicated 100% to my family. And I have 5 buckets. So, and that includes my spiritual, relationship, family, business, and health. And so I have to say no a lot. And that's something that we've had to learn, is that, you know, like if you have, you know, a friend that's having a party, you know, you might not be able to go to that party because it doesn't fit in your buckets.
Mm-hmm.
And I am organized with, you know, my, set my priorities, and routines are huge for me. I mean, I wake up early to have my meditation, to, you know, say what I'm grateful for, and then working out in the morning, and then getting the kids to school. So everything is just, you know, by routine, and it might sound boring, but that's what works for me.
No, it's good. I mean, a lot of successful people, whatever they do is boring. It's about routine. It's about consistency. It's you know, it's not sexy, but so it sounds like you're a very routine person, each and every day, and that's great for balance. I love what you said about just being 100% present, right? Because sometimes we beat ourselves up. It's like if we're at work, you think, man, I need to be with my kids. And if you're with your kids, you're thinking about, man, I need to do this for work. And I think that if you can just be present, and that's all what we're striving for. So Shawn, what about you? I mean, are you a super routine guy too? Or are you more of a fly by the seat, visionary type?
Yes, I'm pretty structured. So, I mean, I follow, the one thing that I don't know who called it out the other day, but, you know, Joni and I, so, and it works for us. I'm not saying it works, but I mean, we've grown up together. We've built everything together. We built a family together, but we've always done things together. And that's why, like, people like combine our names, and we end up getting Shoni and John like all the time. But because it just people see us as like one, and so they combined everything. But so I mean, we do a lot of stuff still together. Like I work out in the morning, quiet time in the morning, and then we work out, usually at the same time. And then off to work and get the kids to school, but it's very structured. We have lunch together every single day.
That's awesome.
And so I think the big thing that Joni and I early on never did was like we've never had. She has her friends or her things that she loves to do, and I have mine and my guy friends or whatever. That's never been us. So we don't do very much apart, and so we don't. We have very similar interests, and we've just grown together, and so we share life, and yeah, like she said, there's not a lot that fits into our life outside of those kind of main buckets or priorities in our life. But I mean, to help with some of the balance, I think the phones are like one of the biggest distractions, and we're not perfect at it by any means. There's struggles that we have, and there's times where we have a project or something that's due the next day, and we have to deal with it that night. And so, but we really try to shut off our phones at 6 o'clock and put them away, so they're not a distraction, and just get out of sight, out of mind, so we can be present with our kids. They love movies and popcorn, and they just love.
And they love having the family dinners together. Like every day when we go home, it's the four of us eating at the kitchen table, and they just love that.
They just to enjoy the time just together, and it's the most simplest things in life. But it's just that time that they really seek. And so we know I think Jim Shields and the 18 Summers, and that's been as we've grown and as we've matured, like our kids right now, we only have a very limited amount of time with them, and they're growing so quickly, and it's going by so fast. So we really have tried to, we don't work weekends, and we don't work at nights anymore. And yes, that might jeopardize some of the businesses or our initiatives, but to us, it's like we only have this 18 years with them, and so we're gonna make the most of it that we possibly can.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's talk about, and I had Jim Shields on a podcast, 18 Summers, so check that out, guys, if you're tuning in. It's really just about being present with your kids. You only got 18 summers with them. And so I want to ask you guys this question. So I got 4 kids, you guys have 2 kids, and maybe you guys can give a good answer to this. So Joni, you obviously came from a broken home, and Shawn, you talked about your family growing up, and we're very, very blessed. I mean, both our families are very blessed, and we have a lot of opportunities at our fingertips. And so I'm always trying to think about, how do I pass, the knowledge that I have on to my kids? How do I teach them in a good way? How do I not give them everything? How do I not spoil them? How do I, let them have courage? Because I could just keep them safe all the time, and they never have to do anything for themselves, right? So do you guys have any wisdom or things that you do within your family as parents that help teach your kids?
You want to go first?
You want to go first?
Okay. Well, I mean, the 3 top things that come to mind when that I have is, I always teach my kids to be kind, because, growing up the way I did, you have no clue what's going on at home. And so I've always taught my kids to just be kind out there, show kindness. And then number 2, be a giver. We have a tradition in our family where so Shawn's birthday is in April 28th, Mila's is April 30th, and Lucas's is April 16th. And so every year we do a birthday fundraiser. Last year, I think we did the Lent Foundation. We, adopted a child, and we, all their birthday gifts that they received, we donated it to the Lent Foundation. So I'm a huge believer that, to show that. And then just never quit. Always strive to, be better, and just never quit.
I love that. Shawn, go ahead.
Yeah, so number 1, we try to be examples, because they do, especially at their age right now, they we're still their like warriors, or where they're they look up to us, and so we try to be examples and for them. And I think one thing that Joni and I are very good at is putting ourselves in uncomfortable situations or stretching ourselves, and so it's important to us that our kids, that they get challenged, and they learn to emotionally deal with those challenges, and also to have the grit to overcome those challenges. And so I think, because it's going to be a major impact in their later in life, because life is always going to have challenges, no matter how much money you have, or there's always going to be challenges. And so for both Joni and I, sports were a really big part of our lives growing up, and I think yours as well, because you played basketball, and I think there's a lot you can learn from sports. So we've really gotten them involved in things early on in team sports, so that they learn to deal with other personalities and work with others, and challenge, definitely challenges them, and it physically, but also like emotionally. I think my son, with my personality, struggles with the A-type personalities out there, or the boys that are, and he's learning, and he's tall, very tall for his age. So he's playing basketball right now, and he's extremely tall. He gets asked to be on teams and stuff because of his height, but he's learning to be on those kind of really good select teams and challenges, because these kids are super aggressive, which is not in his nature at all. And he's more worried about hurting the other kids he's playing with, instead of
kill
like
him. The other guys
steamroll him. Yeah.
And that's hard for us as parents too, because Shawn and I are extremely competitive by nature, and we're like, come on, Lucas, like you can do it, and so.
And then, like, one time he set the meanest pick on a kid, and the kid like just wasn't prepared for it, and just totally got knocked down. The gym just went quiet because the kid hit the ground
and
hard.
We're like, yeah.
And I'm like sitting there like, that's how you
that's how you do it, Lucas.
Yeah, and he was like almost about to cry.
He's like, I'm so sorry.
Got hurt. Yeah. But
that's so funny.
that's so. I mean, but through sports, I learned a lot. I was a 3-sport letterman, and had some big accomplishments in sports in high school, and I learned a lot, and I learned about challenges. I had some very difficult coaches that were verbally abusive, for sure. But it made me, I think it helped me later in life. Now, I don't want my kids to go through that, but I definitely, I think they can learn a lot in sports, and there's coaches of all different, which you fully know. But it helped me later in life to deal with challenges, deal with criticism, to deal with, people kind of berating you at times, and really being rough or difficult. His philosophy, that coach I had for a couple of years, was he wanted winners, and he would do everything he could to get you to quit, because he only wanted people that were, winners. And
weed out the weak.
Yes, that was his philosophy.
Love that. That's funny.
Yeah, and I was a weak kid, but I wasn't a quitter.
Yeah,
and
that's good.
And we share our struggles and some of our stuff, with our children, and letting them know that how to overcome. I mean, they see our work ethic with working out, and they see, we talk about business stuff and challenges, and the things that we face. They're very. I don't know if they're like your children. I mean, they've grown up on job sites, and I don't know, since a really young age, we've taken them and looked at houses, and they see things and how people live, or how destroyed houses can get, and why we're doing what we're doing. And we own some rental properties that they're a part of, and so we like to show them, okay, here's how much it costs, here's how much we borrowed, and we have to explain what is borrowing and what is interest, and the rent that comes in, and here's our expenses. And so financially, we're trying to show them and give them a leg up as well. On that side.
No, it's good. I think it's so important to teach, and not saying your kids have to be business owners or entrepreneurs, but I think it's just important to teach them about money and investing. And it's funny, I was just thinking about just a normal average person out there doesn't have a lot of knowledge when it comes to investing, and even my team, that they're amazing people, but I'm thinking, like, how can I help them, teach them about, actually building wealth, and every dollar that they make is it's a tool that they can use to make more money. And I say that all the time now. Honestly, I've said on the podcast before, is like when you have money, especially in America, it is a lot easier when you have money to make money. Like it is, that's
Yeah.
just the nature of it. So just trying to teach your kids to do what you did at 19 years old. Don't go out and blow it all, and just invest it in yourself and in your time to build something cool. So before we end the show here, I just got a couple other things. So you guys have been at this for 20 years, and Joni, you talked about ambition in your book and just really being ambitious. Do you guys struggle with ambition or complacency since you're 20 years in? You've accomplished a lot, you have a lot. Like, has your life changed? Is the season that you're in different? Are you as hungry? Joni, once you can answer that.
Yeah, and I think so a couple of years back we do struggle with it, and we actually went into Life on Air because we were struggling with, okay, like we've hit our goals, so like what's next? Like we've hit everything that we wanted to accomplish, and yeah, we did get complacent and kind of lost our drive a little bit. And so we kind of had to take a step back and say, hey, like what do we want out of this? What is my purpose? What is our purpose? And for me, I mean, writing the book, it just that was really my wow, like this is your purpose, is to help others out there who may be struggling through the same things and have the same challenges, and so that's kind of been what I look forward to, is helping others out there.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was a weird, that was a difficult, it was a lost period of my life. I didn't know where I was, because for all those years, I think business owners can relate to this very much, is that you keep, for many years, it was like, okay, I did 50 deals this year, I'm going to do 60 next year, I'm going to do 7. And you just keep increasing this bar. And we met with Sean McCloskey and spent some time with him. And it's like, and he challenged us with like, okay, well, why $1 million, or why 1,000? What is that going to do for you? And it made us think like, okay, or made me think, why do I want to do 150 deals or whatever it is? Like what's my, and it's like, well, I didn't even think about it, just because that's what you do. You just keep increasing, keep growing. Your businesses are either growing or they're dying.
Right,
So
yeah.
but it came down to more personal decision. But I got real lost after that, because I didn't up until that time, for a long time, I think it was because my childhood as being so insecure, and I had a chip on my shoulder that this is something I could succeed at. And this is something, a business was something that, and money was a measuring tool that I could show success, or I could show that, hey, I am worthy, or I am somebody to who knows who. But I'm in my mind, that's what you're thinking, is that I had met so much insecurity. So it was a way for me to prove to whoever that I could be successful. And so I just kept increasing that. But after I didn't have a reason why I was doing it anymore, and that, I guess, relieved that chip off my shoulder, it took me probably a good year, say year and a half, to figure out like what's next. And I got lost, and I got like confused, and I didn't know. And it took me some time to refine myself, to refine my purpose, to understand that I enjoyed building a business, and I enjoy employing people, but it got into where I want to like contribute now. I guess I took my eyes off myself and started putting them on other people. And so I started saying, okay, how can I help the people in my organization? How can I help, like you said, your staff that need financial advice, that never got that? How can I mentor them and teach them? How can I contribute to their success and help them do more? How can I build the business bigger so I can employ more people, or so I can give them opportunities to rise within our organization? So it came more about the organization than the deals or the transaction part of it. And that was
and the truth is, we 2 years ago, that right around that time, we actually took an entire month off, like totally off the grid. We're just gonna let our staff handle things, and Shawn and I were gonna travel with our family and enjoy our company together, and that really allowed us to really think about those things as well. So
Yeah, that's awesome that you guys had the opportunity, and I think we all go through this transition. I've been going through this transition as well, as you reach success and then you want to contribute, kind of like what you said, Shawn. You want to give back, you want to help people, and it all comes back to, giving back. I think that's why, Joni, you wrote the book. You guys have the podcast, Inside the Wolf's Den, and you're giving back. You're helping people, not only your team, but people that are listening to this podcast and sharing your story. And, if I were to look at you, Joni, and I hadn't have read this book, and I would just look at you, honestly, I thought you would have been born with a silver spoon in your mouth. Honestly, and you were just given everything, and but it's not true, and it's just so important to share. And thank you guys so much for sharing your story today. Before we go into the last section of the show, I just like to end with some advice. So, Shawn, there's probably a business owner listening to this podcast right now. He's married. He's got 2 kids. His kids are 8 years old, 10 years old, and he's feeling, stressed out. He has quite a bit of money, but he doesn't have a lot of time. Feels a lot of pressure, and just as a business owner, like what do you kind of tell that type of person right now?
Yeah, I think they need to evaluate, and number one, I'm big on like thinking time, or so that period that I was lost, I took Fridays off, and I spent that time thinking and reading and discovering, what was most important to me. And of course, and I think that's when Joni and I really defined those buckets. And, the major one that I felt I was really lacking in was the being present with my children. I felt like I spent a lot of time with them, but I wasn't present ever. And so, or with Joni. And so I felt like that was a big shift that I needed to make in my personal life. So to me, I think they need to spend some time soul searching and figure out, when is enough? When is enough money's enough? When's enough transaction? And when do you start evaluating your time, and especially your time with your family? And so I think they need to sit down and evaluate that and look at, and I'll respect if you say, no, growing my business to this level then that's your choice. But to me, it was, I decided that I did not need to be the biggest players in this space. I did not need to be, there's another big turnkey company that I have a lot of respect for, and we modeled a lot of stuff after them, and I thought I was chasing after them or to be like them. I thought I don't want to be that size. I don't want to be like that. I don't have any desire really. Once I really looked at it and studied it and meditated on that, I would rather spend that extra time with my kids while I got them. Spend that time with Joni, and I'm okay with making less money or not being the biggest in our space, and I was okay with that. And I created, it's much like life in there. You kind of you find your vision for your life and your purpose, and then you start plugging your business and life into fitting into that vision and designing. So you start designing your life around your vision. And if your vision is more time with family and not as stressed out, then you got to make some sacrifices somewhere else. And
it's funny. And I think about weird questions all the time. Just I like to think and reflect too, and it's crazy because sometimes as entrepreneurs we're chasing money, we're chasing success, and then sometimes our relationships are really struggling. Maybe my relationship with my wife is really struggling because I'm working so much, I'm chasing after this money. But if it was hanging by a thread and you asked me like, hey, how much would you pay to have an amazing relationship with your wife, what would that number be? And it would It would be a huge number. I mean, it'd be a huge number. It would be for all of it probably, you know, but we can't, that's an easy black and white, but it's the same thing as if I just, hey, let me spend some time over here focusing on this. And sometimes we can't get our mind around that.
Yeah.
So Joni, I'll ask you, so give some advice to the entrepreneurial wife out there. She's a mom. During the day, she's managing the business, you know, managing the money, leading a business. And then in the evening, she's taking care of the home, wiping faces, dinners, things like that. What advice do you have for her?
I think cut yourself some slack. You know, again, we're so hard on ourselves that we think everything has to be so perfect, and it's the reality. It's not going to be, and so and know that you're awesome and you're valued. You know, and just really set, if you want balance, set your priorities. You know, get your routines together. And I journal. You know, and that's something that I do daily, is because if I'm going through something, I just write it down. It just helps me to get it out.
I like that. No, definitely. Cut yourself some slack, journal, write things down, reflect. Sounds like you guys are really on the same page about reflecting, self-awareness, and figuring that out. So thank you guys so much for sharing today. I really appreciate you being here. Make sure, if you're listening to this, check out Joni's book, The Choice is Yours, Balancing Success as a Wife, Mom, and Entrepreneur. Check that book out. Where can they get that book at? Just Amazon?
Amazon.
Yeah.
Amazon. So check that out. And if you want to reach out to Shawn and Joni, where's the website, your team? If they're interested in Turnkey, where should they go?
Check out InsideTheWolf'sDen.com. Okay. That's our podcast, but all our social media links are on there, and business info. So I know Joni, it's Joni M. Wolf, JoniMWolf.com, and Joni M. Wolf pretty much on every platform. I'm on social media is Shawn the Wolf, like Instagram, LinkedIn, all those. So, but yeah.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Make sure you check out that podcast too, guys. Inside the Wolf's Den with Shawn and Joni. And that's a wrap. Thank you guys so much. It's been a blast today. I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you so much. It was fun.
Thank you so much for checking out the Brett Snodgrass channel. If you like this video, please slam on that like button. And if you really like it, then subscribe to our channel here. And remember to leave us a comment below, and I'm going to try my hardest to reply to all the comments. Thank you guys so much. This is why I do what I do. Every single week, I come out with content that focuses on success, freedom, and living out your purpose. Thank you guys so much. See you next time.